Okay, so this topic, the oral Torah and the disagreements that we have in Chazal, in the Mishnah, in the Gemara, and later on during the history, until today, we have disagreements or different opinions about things. And as the Rabbi said before, the Torah was given to Moshe in Sinai, in Sinai. So the question is what Hashem said. If the Torah is accurate and passed during the generation in the right way, apparently should not be any disagreements. So this topic is a very big topic with a lot of information. We are in very limited time over here, so I will try to just talk about the main thing, the essence. So, can I assume that everyone in this room heard about Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel? Yeah, you know. So that's a classic argument or disagreement between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel. So people think, or apparently when people look at it not in depth, it seems that Bet Shammai, Bet Hillel are the nice guys, the one who want to go toward and make life easier. And Bet Shammai are the one who are so strict and want everything to be in the very, very high level. That could be, you know, when you look at it in a shallow way, that look like this. So let me give you one disagreement between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, but this one is in the principle. So we'll go straight to the quote from the Gemara about this particular disagreement. Wow, yeah, it's not that easy to see over here because of light. Okay, here's the Gemara. The Gemara is in Masechet Eruvin, in Daf Yud Gimel. The Gemara says the following: Amar Rabbi Abba Amar Shmuel. I quote, read it in Hebrew and translate it. Amar Rabbi Abba Amar Shmuel, 3 שנים נחלקו בית שמאי ובית הלל. הללו אומרים הלכה כמותנו, והללו אומרים הלכה כמותנו. Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel has a disagreement for 3 years. And they didn't get to the conclusion. And what was this disagreement about? It's in the principle. In all the disagreements between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel during the history, according to who is the halacha? I mean, what is the bottom line for people? Is halacha ke Bet Shammai or halacha ke Bet Hillel? So, for those of you who are not familiar, just in brief, we'll say the following. Hillel and Shammai were members of the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin is the Supreme Court. In the Supreme Court, at the time of Bai Cheni, was 71 people. 70 plus the president, which is the 71. Okay? Why 71? I mean, why this number? Because, why not 70? Because there is a principle instruction in the Torah that when will be disagreement in the Sanhedrin, in the Supreme Court, we should go according to the majority. Therefore, it should be not even number. So therefore, it's 71. Because if it's 70, it might be 35. Okay? And it always, when there are disagreements, it will be according to the majority. This is a clear pasuk in the Torah, clear instruction. Okay? So, Hillel and Shammai, Hillel was the president of the Sanhedrin, and Shammai was the senior among the 70s. It's called Av Beit Adin. So there is a Nasi, the president, and the Av Beit Adin, which is the senior among the 70s. Now, they themselves, Shammai and Hillel, has very few disagreements. But it was a conception of Bet Shammai versus Bet Hillel, the students of Hillel and the students of Shammai, those who hold from this way and that way, and we have to understand the ways later on. And when you heard the notion Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, the house of Shammai and the house of Hillel, you have to know that we're talking about 250 years after Hillel and Shammai, because Hillel and Shammai themselves were the heads of the Sanhedrin 100 years before the destruction of the Second Temple, and the Mishnah was written 150 years after the destruction of the Second Temple. And during this time, in the Sanhedrin, that Sanhedrin exists all this time, and during this time was those two groups of the house of Hillel and the house of Shammai. So here the Gemara speaks about those 250 years of disagreements between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, according to who the halacha. Halacha meaning what is the practical instructions to the people, according to Bet Shammai or according to Bet Hillel. In general, Bet Hillel are more easy, and Bet Shammai are more strict, right? So look what happened in this particular disagreement. 3 שנים נחלקו בית שמאי ובית הלל. הללו אומרים הלכה כמותנו, והללו אומרים הלכה כמותנו. Surprisingly, the opinions were the following. The house of Hillel said, in all the disagreement between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, halacha kebet Hillel. What a surprise. So then it says, halacha kmotenu. Bet Shammai says, no, in all the agreements between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, halacha kebet Shammai. The halacha will be according to Bet Shammai. For 3 years, they could not get to an agreement about this disagreement. After 3 years, something very interesting happened. יצאה בת קול ואמרה, אלו ואלו דברי אלוקים חיים, והלכה כבית הלל. After 3 years, something similar to prophecy, it's called bat kol. Bat kol meaning the daughter of the voice. The daughter of the voice meaning they heard from upstairs, from Hashem, the following sentence. אלו ואלו דברי אלוקים חיים. This opinion and this opinion, the opinion of Bet Shammai and the opinion of Bet Hillel, in all the disagreements, this opinion and this opinion is what Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu. אלו ואלו דברי אלוקים חיים, meaning Hashem hold from this opinion and from this opinion. He said this opinion and this opinion. וההלכה כבית הלל. But the halacha, the bottom line instruction, what to do practically, is according to the house of Hillel. So that was the bat kol, the daughter of the voice, right? יצאה בת קול ואמרה, אלו ואלו דברי אלוהים חיים הם והלכה כבית הלל. So this is, the Gemara now discussed this, and the Gemara asked the following question, וכי מאחר שאלו ואלו דברי אלוהים חיים הם, מפני מה זכו בית הלל לקבוע הלכה כמותם. If Hashem said this opinion and this opinion, why the halacha is according to one of them? Because both are equal, Hashem says both. The Gemara answer, very interesting answer. Look at this. 3 reasons why halacha kebet Hillel. Number 1, mipnei shenochim va'aluvim hayu. They were easy and they were humble. So this is the reason number 1, why halacha kmotam. The other reason, v'shonim divreim v'divrei Bet Shammai. When they learned Torah, about any issue in the Torah, they didn't just, in their Beit Midrash, in their yeshiva, they didn't just bring the opinion of Bet Hillel, but they also bring the opinion of Bet Shammai in everything. Reason number 3, ולא עוד אלא שמקדימים דברי בית שמאי לדבריהם. Not just that, but always when they have an issue or sugya, any issue that they discuss, first they said what Bet Shammai has to say about this first, before they put together their opinion. So those 3 reasons why halacha kebet Hillel, even though that both opinion was given by Hashem to Moshe Rabbeinu. Now we have to understand here a few things. First of all, how could it be that there will be 2 opposite opinions that Hashem says both? It's kasher and pasul, good and not good. So what do you mean? it's black and white. It's either that or that. So how it's possible that to be two opposite opinions that Hashem says both? Number one. Number two, it seems like irrelevant. If we're looking for the truth, what is halacha? You know, the confusing concept over here, what halacha is. Many people think, okay, they argue, but at the bottom line, this is the truth, meaning the other one is not the truth. So you have to understand, halacha is not saying what's right and what's wrong. As we said before, both opinions God says. It's not that one is right and one is wrong. Halacha is practically how we should do. It doesn't say that the other opinion is not true. But yet, even if that's the issue, how relevant those reasons? What do you mean? They were humble, they were easygoing. That's not seems a relevant reason to decide that this is that halacha should be according to them. Well, we would give him a reward because they are nice. It seems irrelevant. The other thing, שונים דבריהם ודברי בית שמאי, ולא עוד אלא שמקדימים דברי בית שמאי לדבריהם. So what? So they're more open, they open to hear other opinion. Is that the reason? The reason is much deeper, and I want to answer this, and by this answer everything. When we're talking about a dispute, a disagreement, we have to know the following. Hashem gave us the Torah. All the mitzvahs in the Torah, about each one of them, it says, Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe lemor. Not Moshe Rabbeinu is the legislator. He didn't do anything. He just was the channel to get the things from God. Now, the laws of God, the Torah, is the absolute truth. Let me explain what I mean by this. The first pasuk in the Torah says, Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. God is the creator of the universe, right? Everyone here heard about the concept of the laws of nature. Let me ask you, who made the laws of nature? The one who created the nature itself. The laws of nature is part of the nature, right? You have to remember this. Meaning, no one could make laws of nature. The scientist who made a new law of nature never born yet. You do not make laws of nature. You know, in science we talk about discovery. We discover things. What's discover? It's two words in English, cover and discover. The meaning is, it was there always, but it was covered. Then someone discovered it and revealed it, but it was there in the beginning. In Hebrew, it's very interesting. For those of you who know Hebrew, you will appreciate it very much. How do you say laws of nature in Hebrew? Chukei hateva. Chok is engraved. Teva is tavua, like matbea, like a coin. Matbea. So the chok is in the system itself. It's not something that put out from outside. Not like laws that people make. Take legislature all over the world during the history. How the legislators in the parliament make laws. They raise their hands. How do they know if it's right or wrong? The answer is they do not know. They just made it up. And laws could change from generation to generation, from place to place, meaning it's flexible. It's not engraved. It's arbitrary and could be right, could be wrong. That's not the case with the laws of nature. The laws of nature are part of the nature. The essence of the element in the nature and the tendency of it is the laws that come from it. It's not coming from outside. So where I'm going with this, The Torah claims that the same creator who created the nature, the physical nature, with the laws of nature, create the spiritual dimension in the universe with the laws of the spiritual essence. Therefore, there is no point to try to invent laws. So actually the Judaism claims that the Torah are the laws of spiritual dimension of the universe. Therefore, they're absolute. And again, it's raise or make the question even harder. If so, how people could argue, either you know, because God told you what are the laws of nature or not, right? Of the spiritual nature. So the answer to this is the following. Hashem gave us the truth. The absolute truth. But because the Torah were giving to us, and we should apply it to our life. You know, let's just mention another point. Let's take the regular law. There is a law, right? There is a books of law, let's say of America. You have the citizen, you have the law. Why do you need courts? Who needs courts? What courts for? You have a problem, go open the book and see what the law says. Why do you need judge? What for? Because the cases that you discuss or come, the cases are more complicated. It's not, you know, exactly what is written in the law. Some case could have different components that needs to be valued. What part of the case relevant to what law? And then you have to weigh it. Therefore, we need the court. In the court, regular court, you could find that even professional judges could argue, right? They could argue because there is the dry law, but there is a problem how to weigh it in this particular case. And not everyone, I'm talking about professional, I'm not talking about people who are not relevant to the issue. People who learned the law and they are professionals, right? They could argue. Why? Because here there is a leeway for your mind, for your evaluation to how to weight it. So what are we doing? Even the regular courts, we're going according to the majority. So when you have an argument in court and you go according to the majority, is that says that the minority are talking nonsense, they do not know what they're talking about? No, there is room for their opinion, but we have to make a decision. So this is the thing also. Hashem gave us the dry law, but there is room for evaluate it. And in this could be arguments. And Hashem is aware to this. And there is a very specific verse in the Torah, what's going to happen in a case of disagreement. So the Torah says, לא תהיה אחרי רבים לרעות ולא תענה על ריב לנטות אחרי רבים להטות. Let's emphasize those last three words. אחרי רבים להטות. Meaning when you have a disagreement in the court between the judges, you go according to the majority. The fact that the Torah put this verse, meaning here, it means that the Torah, Hashem was aware that will be disagreement, and He told you what to do in a case of disagreement. So disagreement are not showing anything wrong with the way it's transmitted from generation to generation, because it's something that Torah is aware of it in the beginning. So להלכה the Rambam bring, בית דין שנחלקו, a court that has disagreement, מקצתם אומרים זכאי ומקצתם אומרים חייב, about certain person if he is guilty or not, הולכים אחר הרוב, going according to majority, וזו מצוות עשה של תורה, שנאמר אחרי רבים להטות. It's written clearly in the Torah, you go after the majority. Okay? Now let's go back to בית שמאי ובית הלל. The question is, if this is the instructions, that when you have disagreement, go according to the majority. How come in this particular disagreement, according to who is the halacha, how come it took them 3 years? You have disagreement? Okay, gather together the Sanhedrin and raise your hands and count the hands. If will be a majority for Bet Hillel, halacha ke Bet Hillel. If it will be a majority to Bet Shammai, halacha ke Bet Shammai. So what's the problem? Why it took 3 years? And even after 3 years, they didn't decide based on majority or minority, but Bat Kol came, Hashem have to interfere and said. So here's the thing, here's the secret. When you're talking about majority and minority, you have to add to this another notion. Quality and quantity. So apparently, majority and minority relate to quantity. Quantity.
Relates to quality.
Quantity.
Okay.
Usually, it's quantity. What's the number? Who has more numbers of voters, right? But it's not that simple when you deal with understanding what God says. You have to take into account also the quality. So we're talking about each one of those members of the Sanhedrin is qualified. He is a member of the Sanhedrin, his vote is important. But if you go to the Sanhedrin, you'll see that even in the Sanhedrin there are different levels of quality. So imagine a situation that the minority is the quality. Here we have a problem. If everyone agree, no argument about what's the quality. And let's say the quality is the minority. So now, if you go by the quantity, you have clear majority. But if you go according to the quality, this is a problem. What are you going to do? That was the case. That was the case. That way they could not do it. They knew Bet Hillel was the majority in numbers, but they knew Bet Hillel that the quality is by Bet Shammai. So they could not take on themselves to decide based on this. Therefore, they could not decide. Until Bat Kol came from Shammai and says, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim. If you ask, what Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu when he gave him the Torah? The answer is he gave him the opinion of Bet Shammai and the opinion of Bet Hillel. Not by name, but he didn't say this Bet Hillel, this Bet Shammai, because Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai was not exist at the time. But he gave him both opinions. Halacha ke Bet Shammai, ke Bet Hillel. So the Gemara asks why? Why halacha ke Bet Hillel? If they are equal, because Hashem said both opinion, based on what you decide that halacha ke Bet Hillel. And here comes the answers. Mipnei shenochim ve'aluvim hayu. They were easygoing and they were humble. And it's not just because they were humble, we're giving them a reward, because it seems irrelevant. The answer is the following. As he said, Bet Shammai were in higher level of understanding the things and demanding. They require excellence. Excellency. There is such a word in English? Excellency? Excellency. They if not, I'm making count. Okay. They said, what do you mean? If God tells us to do something, we have to do it in the highest level possible. They were so idealistic. And it's fit their level. Bet Hillel knew this. They knew that they wanted to do everything in the higher level. Therefore, they appreciate, Bet Hillel appreciate Bet Shammai. But when it comes to the question, what instruction you're going to apply to the field, to the regular people, Bet Hillel, about every sugya, about every issue, discuss the sugya, and they ask themselves, what Bet Shammai think about this? Because they appreciate their opinion. After they heard what Bet Shammai says, they ask themselves, okay, now we have to discuss another thing. if this highest level is really fit the regular average person. Because maybe it's only for people who are in very high level. So that was what they valued, Bet Hillel. When they realized that everyone could live with this, they said, for sure, we agree with Bet Shammai. But when they didn't, they said, it's not fit the average person. The average person is in less high level. Then they disagree with Bet Hillel, with Bet Shammai. And this is a good reason to make the halakha according to them. It says that in this world, halakha ke Bet Hillel. But in the future, when Mashiach will come, when the level of everyone will be higher, halakha gonna be according to Bet Shammai. Therefore, you could understand why elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim. Because Hashem gave you both levels. In the highest level, that's what you have to do. In the lowest level, that's what you have to do. And there is something in between. But you have to take into account, even in the lowest level, chas v'shalom, there is no way that Bet Hillel will be saying that something that the Torah says don't do. Bet Hillel will say, you know what? Let's be more lenient about it. Let's let people do it. You never find that Bet Hillel take Isur Torah, that's something the Torah said don't do, and say, just because we want everyone to be connected, let's make it okay. There is a spectrum that over there you could play, but there is a red line that you never could cross, right? Therefore, halakha ke Bet Hillel. Halakha ke Bet Hillel, because and this is relevant that they're nochim va'aluvim. What do you mean nochim va'aluvim? They are humble and they are easygoing. They were with the people. Bet Shammai, because they were such in high level, it's like, you know, in academic, I don't know how to say it in English, but there are those people who are scholars and so scientific, they are in the very high tower.
Ivory tower. Ivory tower.
Ivory tower.
Olympus.
And because they're so high in this ivory tower, they disconnected with the people around. And they live in a different world. So, in order to make halacha for the average, every person, you should be involved with the people. And that was the benefit of Bet Hillel over Bet Shammai. Because Bet Shammai, because they were so intellectual and so high spiritually, they were in a way disconnected from the people. Therefore, you could not make the halacha for the average person according to their opinion. But not because it's not true. Now, let's go back. That is the quote that it could bring you from the Gemara. This is one little Gemara, but it's explained a lot of things. In a way, arguments and different opinions, in a way, it's so enhancing. Understand, when you have one opinion, you see it from a very narrow way. When you have arguments and different opinions, it's good. It's good. It's rich and enhance the entire thing. So in a way, it's blessed to have different opinions. And you know Jews, 2 Jews, 3 opinions. Jews, because they're very opinioned guys, Jews. This is the nature of Jews. We inherit this from Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu was the first Jew, right? Who was Avraham Avinu? One person who has the guts to stand in front of the entire world and say, so what if everyone said so? They might be wrong. They not just might, they are wrong. And I'm right. So each one of us inherit this in our genes. Therefore, we do not agree with them. So what if everyone says so? I know better. So sometimes we use it in the wrong place. But when it comes to Torah, Torah were given to us in order for us to see it from our point of view, but with rules. Okay, you cannot just make your own Torah. But in the Torah, there is room for different point of views. Again, there is a red line that you could not cross, but in this, and we're talking about professionals, now I'm not talking about people who never open a book. The arguments that we're talking about between scholars, between someone who knows. Otherwise, there is no value to your opinion. What do you mean your opinion? If you do not never learn the material, well, there is no, it doesn't make any sense that you'll have an opinion. But after you know the rules and you is a scholar, you could give your opinion. Your opinion is okay, but we have to give instructions, and the instruction should be one. And the Torah says, Torah achat tiyeh lachem lager v'laezrach. We have to have one law. So if you learn the Talmud, and this is something very interesting, the Talmud is very unique. The Talmud brings the arguments, the discussions. So there is a Talmud and there is halacha books. Halacha books different than the Talmud because the halacha give you the bottom line. The Talmud give the negotiations or the different opinions back and forth. But at the end of the sugya, of every sugya, you have the bottom line, and bottom line is the halacha. Now, when we learn Torah, the way really to learn Torah is not just to know what to do, but mitzvah Talmud Torah is to look at every issue from all angles. And this is the Talmud. The Talmud is a very theoretical thing. It's not practical. The practical is the halacha books, what the halacha is. That's what makes us, as Jews, you heard about the Jewish cup, meaning the Jewish head. Where we developed the Jewish head? Learning Talmud in the last 1800 years, 1500 years. Since the Talmud was written, the Mishnah is 1800 years. So what Jews did during the history? They break their heads looking at this angle, this angle, this angle. And we know that when we're looking about something from different angles, you really cover it from all sides. But then you should have a bottom line. So this is the reason for the disagreement between the rabbis. They're not really disagree. They appreciate each other. Beit Hillel really appreciated Beit Shammai. And Beit Shammai knew where Beit Hillel coming from. So those disagreements are blessed disagreements who enhance and make it rich and beautiful. Now, this actually, you could say, relevant to the Mishnah and to the Gemara. But when we comes to halakha, it should be one halakha. But we see that we have disagreement or different opinion even in the halakha. So what's going on here? So here we have to learn the development of the history. Hashem said this pasuk, Acharei rabim le'atot, go according to the majority, only about the Supreme Court. You know, some people could take this, Acharei rabim le'atot, and say, here the Torah talk about democracy. No, wrong. It's not talking about democracy. In democracy, there is something very funny. Everyone has a say. Even people who have no clue what they're talking about. But everyone has a say. You know, I remember in Israel, I'm an Israeli, former Israeli. I mean, I live in America for a long time, but okay, I'm still Israeli. So it wasn't a big thing. Once it was relevant for about 5 minutes, maybe to return the Golan Heights to the Syrian. Long time ago, when Syria was exist. Right? So it was a whole disagreement, or a whole thing about this. To return the Golan Heights for peace, yes or no. What is the funny things? If you will make, you know, a survey or ask people, each person has a say, right? People who have no clue, never was in the army, never knew the risks, and the general that is commanding the people over there that know exactly what he's talking about. In democracy, it's so ridiculous because both says are the same. This is so stupid. But this is democracy. And then not about everything, everything. So this is the weak point, the weak part of democracy. That's not what's written here. Here it's talking about Sanhedrin only. When you have among those professionals who knows exactly what they're talking about, go practically according to the majority. Problem is that we do not have a Sanhedrin anymore. In the last 1700 years, we do not have Sanhedrin anymore. But before the last Sanhedrin exists, the Mishnah was written. The head of the Sanhedrin at the time of the Mishnah was Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, Rabbi Yehuda the president, and he wrote the Mishnah. The Mishnah is the brief of the oral Torah that was given to Moshe Sinai, with the argument of Beis Shammai and Bet Hillel and all the Tanoim. So it's written before the Sanhedrin stopped to exist. Therefore, the Gemara that's written on the Mishnah and try to explain the Mishnah relate to the Mishnah, but it's not Sanhedrin anymore. And the rule is that anyone in the Gemara, which is the scholars in the Gemara called Amoraim, and the scholar in the Mishnah called Tanaim. So there is a rule that Amoraim, which is from the Talmud, could not disagree with Tanaim, because they were in the Sanhedrin and they are not Sanhedrin anymore. You could give your opinion as an Amora, and only if you have a Tana that thinks like you. But you could not give opinion that against what the Tanaim says in general. Since then, we make the things we make the halakha and the minhagim, and the minhagim that you have in different places for different Eidot, Ashkenaz, Sfard, Temanim, everyone has, those minhagim are not, it comes after the time of the Sanhedrin. Therefore, it's not obligated everyone, but only the group that got or accept those minhagim. So you have to differentiate between Torah, between Torah Shebe'al Peh, between minhagim. So, but that's what makes the situation the way it is. So it seems to people who never went inside in depth to understand that people argue with each other, and they do not, rabbis do not agree with each other, and it's not true, because in the Torah itself there are very few arguments, if at all. And there is way to make the halacha. The minhagim that we developed during the history is because we do not have Sanhedrin anymore, and we spread all over the world. And in this case, when it was a question in certain place, let me give you one example. You go to the local court of rabbis that are the authority in this place and ask them, and they will give you instruction what to do in this particular case. But their bottom line of instructions obligated only the people that are in this place. One of the best examples are rice in Pesach. Are you allowed to eat rice in Pesach, yes or no? So let me give you the background of this. Ashkenazim and few of the Sephardi communities like Moroccans do not eat rice in Pesach. Now, is rice in Pesach chametz? The answer is no. Rice is not chametz. Only 5 things could be chametz, not rice. So where it's coming from? The forbidden to eat rice in Pesach. Because in Europe, a few hundred years ago, was a problem of wheat that came in sacks, and with it was rice, or rice that came, and with it was few wheat stuff. So when people cooked it with the wheat, it became chametz. And because it was not just one case or 2 cases, it was a common phenomena, the Beit Din, the court at the time in Europe, decided that in order to prevent people to eat chametz b'Pesach, which is very severe, it's onesh karet, it is very severe, so let's just get rid of rice altogether. Not because the rice is chametz, but because it's come to a way that people could get into eating chametz. So this instruction is valid in Europe to the communities who has this problem. So people in Yemen, let's say, never heard about such a problem, and they have no problem to eat rice in Pesach. If it was Sanhedrin at the time, the Sanhedrin will give instructions that will obligate everyone, but we do not have Sanhedrin. Therefore, and that's how different minhagim developed during the time. So this issue, this sugya, this topic is much wider and deeper with a lot of details. But right now, I don't see that we could go further than that. So we have a few minutes, and maybe if you have specific questions, and if I could answer them in brief, I could do it, yeah.
So, it's many years since this took place. Change it.
You can. That's the thing. There are rules. The rules are that en beidin, no court could change former court decisions unless they are bigger than them. Bigger than them in wisdom, and in other things. There are conditions, so you cannot change it. You cannot change it, and if it seems like a fanatic, it's not. Those are the instructions, and you know what? Without rice, people could survive. I'm telling you. So that's not a big problem. So okay, so when you have a minhag that become a minhag of the community, you're not changing it. You're not changing it because there are more reasons than this. You know, it's much more complicated. It's not just about the rice. Let's say the 2 days of Yom Tov in Chutz La'aretz. In Eretz Yisrael, you know, you have 1 day of Yom Tov of Sukkot, and the last day also 1 day. And in America, or not just in America, everywhere outside of Israel, you have 2 days, right? So what's the original reason, apparently? Because they decided at the time of the Sanhedrin, if Rosh Chodesh will be in the 13th day of the last month or in the next day. It's according to the moon. They have to see the moon and decide based on the Re'iyah. Even though you could calculate it, but the mitzvah is, at the time of the Sanhedrin, that witnesses should come and say, we saw the new moon. Okay? So they decided about this in Yerushalayim. There are 2 weeks of going from Yerushalayim to spread the word that Rosh Chodesh started in this day or the day before. And now the implication will be, when will be Sukkot? You know, if they decided about Rosh Chodesh Tishrei, so when's Rosh Hashanah? When will be Sukkot? It take 2 weeks until the words will come to all the far places. So people who live further than that will never know on time if Sukkot or Pesach, and Pesach is very severe, you're not allowed to eat chametz, right? So they will not know if Pesach is today or tomorrow. So misafek, because of the doubt, they have to do 2 days, right? So the question is, again, I'm asking your question again. But since then, so much time passed, and now we are not doing according to the site, and we know exactly when will be Rosh Chodesh, even 100 years from now. So why to keep those problems? Apparently, it was fit the time that you could not spread the word, but today, you know, with WhatsApp, you could go all over the world in a second, right? So why we're keeping the 2 days of Yom Tov in Chutz La'aretz, right? So many people ask this because it's much easier not to have 2 days of Yom Tov. So it's coming from, I want easy life. It's not from your... The thing is that there are more reasons for this. I'll give you just one mystical reason about this. Apparently, the reason is that the word could not come to the far places, apparently. But there is more than that. In the Kabbalah, it says that when you are not in the Holy Land, in Eretz Yisrael, to get the impact of 1 day of Yom Tov in Eretz Yisrael, you need twice of the time in Chutz La'aretz to get the impact. What do you mean the impact? Yom Tov has big thing in it. According to the Kabbalah, let's say you know that in Hebrew, holidays called Chagim. Chagim, Chag. It's called Chag. What's Chag? What's coming from? It's coming from the word mechoga. Mechoga is circle. If you look at this clock, not the digital one, the regular clock, okay, you will see that you have 12 numbers, and the arm goes around, and after 12 hours come exactly to the same place, right? So in the Kabbalah it says that every major historical event that happened to us as a nation happened in a certain time of the history of the year. And this certain time of the year was something that in Kabbalah called lights, was orot. Or is light, is something that open, expose something. So the time of Yetziat Mitzrayim, in the 15th day of Nisan, right, it happened here in the physical world because it was an opening spiritual light. And every year, in the same date, this light is shining. Therefore, you do the Chag exactly at the time it happened. So we're talking about, again, according to the Kabbalah, everything that happened in the physical world, the source of it is in the spiritual world. So this spiritual world gives you the ability every year to get out of your own Mitzrayim. Every year in Yom Kippurim, you'll have this light that give you the ability to clean up all your bad things from your account. So those lights, spiritual lights, effective in the land of Israel, the Holy Land, very intensively. Abroad, you need double the time. That's why you need 2 days of Yom Tov. Not for Yom Kippur, because it's hard to fast 2 days, but Sukkot, Pesach, and Shavuot, we do twice the thing. So there is more, just a second, there is more than just the practical level of the reason. The reasons are bigger than this, and that's why we're not changing it, and I'm happily doing twice Leila Seder. I remember the first time I came to America, I'm an Israeli. The first time I did the second Seder, it was for me so weird. What do you mean? We went out of Mitzrayim yesterday or today? Right? It was so weird. Today, you'll pay me, I'm not giving it up. Because the first night of Seder, I'm so exhausted, and I could not really get the benefit of really doing it with my kids. But the second night, after you slept a little bit, it's much nicer. So there are benefits for these things. Yeah.
Is there any known exemption or any known cases when some rules were changed, even with small rules? Do you know any?
No, I don't know any.
Oh, I'll give you an example, which
Okay.
I read long time ago, which is very not a big deal. If I remember, there's a glass of water staying overnight because of the long time ago was the snakes and scorpion. Now it's no, there's no snake scorpion. Now if you can drink from this, it will stay. This kind of stuff. But there's should be something change over time, even if it's not a big thing.
Right, but those things are not the major halacha things. You know, it's mipnei sakana, and you're right. When there is danger, it's reasonable to do it. When there is no danger, there is no reason. But those things are not the thing that we're talking about. We're talking about the halachot or the Torah, the laws that Hashem gave us in Sinai. It's different. You have to differentiate between the major stuff to things that are in the side. And I don't know, as I said before, anything major that changed. But those things, yeah, it's according to the situation. You're not going with your head in the wall. Yeah, you could think about what might change or might, not you, I mean, not us, but the scholars of the generation, the Poskei Ador, could decide about this thing. So, yeah, possible for things that not in the major thing, minhagim and things like this, yeah, possible.
Because existence of Israel for the last 70 years probably should make some adjustment.
How?
I don't know. Because this law were many rules were created when we practically lost everything.
Why the establishment of the State of Israel will change anything in the Torah?
I don't know. It just
I don't think so.
We face new challenges.
Like what? Any new challenges? Tell me what do you mean? Any new challenges that we never heard before? That influence the Torah, that relate to.
You know, when halacha was written, and some of the challenges related to existence of State of Israel, it's made.
Be specific. Give me one example, so I will know what you're talking about.
It's a lot of farmers who follow the rules of
Shemitah.
Some of them don't follow. There's some of these rules are get a little bit more complicated in existence of State of Israel.
Listen. First of all, unfortunately, most of the Jews around the world and in Israel are secular, meaning they lost their belief in the Torah and Hashem. And the State of Israel, you have to remember, the State of Israel as a state is a secular state. The laws of the state are not the laws of the Torah. So if you're talking about those who keep Torah in Eretz Israel, they do it. They do Shemitah, even though Shemitah today is not the Oraisa, because the majority of the Jews are not in Eretz Israel. So there are things that people who observe the Torah do, but it's not the State of Israel. But the establishment of the State of Israel does not change this. There is no people who keep. People who do not keep. It's not good. It's not right. It's not valid. But that's the fact that many people do not know about Torah, unfortunately, and do not live their life according to the Torah. But those who did.
When you're in Israel, when I visit Israel pretty often, for example, kashrut in Israel. When you try to eat at a kosher place, it's even more challenging than in New York.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, but in many places we ask questions.
True.
The look, we have a certificate.
Yeah.
It's,
You're right. Unfortunately,
at the same
New
time,
York.
any meat, which is any meat, and I know that's a fact. Almost any meat in Israel, that's a kosher.
The problem is that the state is secular. The state as a state is secular. So the frum people, the people who observe in Israel, facing a lot of challenges, because any observant Jew, the only law that's relevant is the laws of Hashem. Now, when you're in exile, you have to accept or follow the rules of the states that you are. You're in America, you have to appreciate or take into account the secular law, the state law. But in Israel, it's a funny situation, because it's claimed to be a Jewish state, but Jewish state with no Jewish laws, it's something funny. But this is it. This is a problem, yeah.
To follow up on what you said about the Kabbalah,
Yeah.
about the different minhagim. So is there a sefer out there that can list those Kabbalah for the different traditions?
A sefer that what?
That will list the reasons why.
If you learn, that's the thing. That's exactly the reason that we need to learn Torah.
No,
If you learn Torah, on all levels. You start from the pshat. You start from the simple things, and you go higher and higher, and you have to learn Kabbalah. And if you learn Kabbalah, when you fit, you will see everything.
I know the Ashkenaz minhagim doesn't like to go to the Kabbalah so much.
I'm not sure. The Vilna Gaon was Ashkenazi, and he was very Kabbalistic. Yeah, okay. Because we have another lecture, so I think we'll make a short break over here, and then we'll go to the next one.
Next lecture will be on health.
Thank you.
The refreshment should be healthy, hopefully. So